Great. If you are watching this, you probably have already watched the first one where I defined real estate, or you probably have subscribed to the real estate masterclass, or it's not yet fully subscription based and it's still free. Thank you for signing up for this and thank you for joining. So today, I want us to discuss some terms in real estate because maybe people use these terms to tension clients and probably other people that they meet in the industry, and it feels like, oh, the guy was mentioning some words that we couldn't relate to, or other ways so that we can communicate subsequently while we do this. Because if we cannot speak the same language, if we cannot understand each other, then we cannot work together. So I'll just put some words together, and the most abused one of them is assets. Okay, asset. Let me say number one. So asset is the most used word in real estate because people come into real estate to buy assets. Assets is literally anything you buy with money with the hope that it appreciates in value or makes money for you. Okay, there are two things that we spend money on. You're either spending money on an asset or you are either spending money on a liability. Okay, so people would say that a car is not an asset or a car is a liability. It's a property, but it could be a liability and it could be an asset. If it's a liability, it means it's taking more money from you. It's draining your cash flow. If it is an asset, it means it is giving you more money. Now, sometimes there is an asset that you can have that can both give you money or take money from you. Okay, so maybe the net, if there is a net gain, then it's an asset. If there is a net loss, then you can say it's a liability or it's a bad performing asset, literally. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. We'll certainly get back to it. But that's what an asset is. And real estate is literally just about acquiring these assets with the hope of earning revenue from it or it appreciating so that you can probably sell it in the future for more. So that's what is an asset. There are other forms of assets. There can be digital assets or other stuff that you can buy, pay for, and earn money on it. Okay, there are collateral assets that you can pay for, but today for real estate is real buildings, structures that you have acquired that bring you money. So we can do that. The next one would have been addendum, also a word that that is not too frequently used that people use to confuse people. Addendum is an additional contract that is added to a major contract or a standard contract for clarity. So there is a way things are being done, then someone prefers something, also someone wants some unique changes to be made. You don't want to change the standard contract, you add it to it so that in case of any issue you can reference that. Usually addendums are verbal, but if the transaction is big money, you don't want to have a verbal addendum because once the money is big, there's a lot of tension. It will take you to a word that I'll be describing later on. So you stay with me, okay? Then the next one would have been appraisal. Appraisal, okay? Appraisal. Wow, I love my A. Appraisal is a professional word, and then it can be done by anybody as well, which is not the best, but we all do appraisals in life. Appraisal is when you assess the value of something, okay? So regular people will just stand up and say, that house cannot be 100,000. I can build that house for 50,000. My uncle sold a similar house for 150,000. We are appraising it. But there is professional appraisal. Professional appraisal is done by land surveyors, okay? Or quantity surveyors. Now what they do is this. They look at maybe a building or a land. They look at the location. They look at accessibility to road and other stuff. They look at how much other people have sold assets in that area, okay? Then they look at how long it has been built. They look at the quality of the inputs that are there. They look at the condition in which it is. Then they tell you that, okay, this is the actual value of something. So when you are doing appraisal, you can have actual value. I didn't plan to really look at that, but since it has come, let's just do it. You can have actual value, okay, or real value, right? Okay. Then you can have replacement value, okay. I will describe this, and then you can have forced sale value, okay. Forced sale value, okay. since we are trying to understand stuff, let's look at this. The actual value is how much a thing is worth by all standards, all things being equal. It's actual value, okay? Now the replacement value is how much is going to cost you to reproduce that thing. Now the replacement value can sometimes be lower or higher in real estate. Now the replacement value is usually the price at which you want to sell, the minimum price at which you want to sell a product. So maybe when demand is low, the replacement value would come down, okay? Or when price of items, inflation and the like, when price of cement is low, the replacement value will come down, okay? The actual value is imposed on it. It costs this to build. That's what it is. Everybody has it. The replacement value can either come back down or come up, okay? Then usually that's the benchmark for selling, because when you sell, when you're in the business of selling, you want to be able to replace it anytime you sell, okay? And it will usually be higher than the actual value, so there will be maybe some form of profit margins built in here. Then the first sale value is the price at which someone sells their asset if they really need the money, because selling real estate can take you 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. But first sale value, you want to sell it next week because your mother is in the hospital, so usually it's very low. And first sale value is a function of availability of buyer or willingness of another buyer to buy. So you can probably go as far low to just get your money, or you do maybe just 10% less so that you can get the money. The surveyors will tell you that, okay, this is a $500,000 house, you can, that's the actual value, you can sell it for $600,000, replacement value high, or you can only get $400,000 because now things are cheap, replacement value lower. Or if you really want the money now, sell it for $350,000. That's the best you can get next week. You get it? So that's replacement value. And these things play a lot of roles when you are doing, if you want to liquidate a property, or if you want to use it as a collateral, they use these things to make those kind of decisions, okay? If you want to use it for transactions, if you want to use it for an investment or partnership, we use these stuff, okay? When there's litigation, the lawyers look into this and make a decision based on this metric. So it's something you really need to look at in real estate. Now let's go to another word that people love so much. Number 4, broker. Okay. In Ghana, brokers are called agents. And for me, I don't like to be called agents because agents have a bad reputation. They take your money and run away, literally. But brokers are more professionals. They are known, they have an office, they have a face, they have a brand, they have an integrity to protect, okay? And they are supposed to be doing the same work. What they do is to be the link between a buyer and a seller, okay? So we connect two parties, someone who has money and wants to buy, and someone who wants and has an asset and wants to sell. Sometimes, or mostly, they are professionals, either a lawyer or an engineer or other forms of professionals, okay? In Ghana, they are trying to regularize their space, so very soon there will be certified brokers, okay? And the like. But in the end, sometimes anybody can be a broker, but it's good if you have a broker with reputation, okay? So if it's something you want to do, you want to really do that very well. And the next one would have been commission. I don't know why commission came after broker, but the reason is in alphabetical order. But commission is how brokers make money. So brokers earn a portion of the value of the work that they are doing. So if you are buying a property worth $300,000, the broker would agree to you that we can do 1%, 3%, 5%, 10%, okay? Between 1 to 10%, depending on the value of the property, they do this. Now, sometimes people believe that the person receiving money is the one who is supposed to pay commissions, okay? So if you represent a party and you link them up and they do a transaction, the person who is receiving money is the one who pays commission. But other people believe that the buyer can pay commission for getting a property, and the seller can also pay commission for finding a buyer, okay? So sorry, there are places where both parties are paying commission. And then when that happens, sometimes there can be a broker for the buyer and a broker for the seller. So each person gets paid. But if there is no broker for both of them, the two brokers, if there are two brokers who came together, okay, but one is not willing to pay commission, they can share commission. There are deals that maybe 1, 2, or even 3 brokers work together to close the deal. You can share the commission, or each person will just get paid by their client, where one of the clients is a buyer and the other client is a seller, depending on the agreements that have happened before now. Okay. Now, credit. Credit is an interesting word because Ghana, we don't use credit as it means in the dictionaries. Okay. But credit by bankers and all over the world is your capacity to loan money, or your capacity to be lended money to, your capacity to borrow, okay, your ability to borrow, or how much money can be borrowed to you. So you hear a word, the credit worthy, you see that the banks tell you that you need to make 30% deposit, okay, because if you want to buy a property, I tell people, if you don't have 50% of the money, you can't afford it. You have people who are looking for loans and monies for stuff that they can't even raise 50%. You are not ready for it, okay? Maybe unless it's an asset, which real estate is, but can you still pay for it so that you don't default? Okay, so credit will look at your history of monies that have been borrowed to you and how you manage them, how you paid back and the like, and then it affects your credit. So that's one thing we need to know about credits. I hope you get me. Great. So the next word we'll be looking at is lease. My board is running out. So let's look at lease. I want to write all these 3 words on the same page. Great. So the next 3 words, I'll write them down because they can be very confusing. Would be lease. Okay. Then the next one would have been an indenture. Indenture. And then the next one would have been title, okay? I've had a lot of fights over this word title. So lease is an agreement over a rental tenure, and it can start from as low as even a night, a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. There can be a 100-year lease, or let's say 99-year lease, okay? There can be a renewable lease, and there can be a non-renewable lease. There can be a lease that is subject to negotiation, or there can be a lease that is close-ended, okay? That is what a lease is, okay? And usually lands and properties are subject to lease, okay? So this will mean that there will be a day that the thing will have to return to the original owner, literally, okay? Or by virtue of the language in the lease, it will just be renewed every a certain number of years. And then that also means that it can be terminated upon some conditions stated in that document, okay? So that's what a lease is. An indenture usually would have been a sale transaction. So an indenture might mean that it is not reversible, or it doesn't have an end date unless stated upon in the language. So an indenture is an upgraded form of lease where I'm like, I am giving it to you. It is a purchase. You don't have to be paying for it every month. It's not a rent. I don't have to come back for it for 50 years. Maybe we can have a conversation. Or forever, which is called into perpetuity, people call freehold, which there are laws about this, and we'll be discussing it in subsequent classes. I'll tell you how the laws have affected lease tenures and indentures and the limits to it, okay? Then the title is when you go and register your lease or indenture in the court. So now it confirms your ownership of the stuff, and it is supposed to be publicly accessible in the court. That's one of the things you want to look at, okay? So that's another thing you need to. Then let's look at this word as well, equity. Equity. Now there are times, let me crown my why. There are times that you don't own all of something, you own just a portion of it. Equity is the portion of it that you own, literally. Okay, so your equity in something can be defined, okay? Then we have encroachment. And can I spell that word? Encroach. Somebody help me spell that word. Encroachment. Hallelujah. Encroachment is literally when you find yourself on someone else's property, sometimes without due agreement, okay? So it's not yours, you are on there, in there without approval or an indenture or lease. Okay. Then the next one is litigation. Litigation is when you are fighting over something. Literally, right? Litigation is when you are fighting over something. And in real estate, beware of litigants. You can't win when you find yourself in their space. Okay, that's a free advice. That's quite about 12 words. I'm sure there are lots of other words, but these are the words that come up so often, very frequently. So I hope you don't forget the meanings. Let's have a conversation in the comments, what you think about them, your experience about them. Ask me questions, then I'll respond to them subsequently. And share this to people who need to see this in case you need to reference this sometime in the future. Then we'll be moving to the next phase of this in the next video. So subscribe so that you can watch it and look out for it. Thank you very much. I'm Engineer Viglo.